It's time for the Lisa Benson Show, your home for national security news and commentary. And now, your host, Lisa Benson.
Welcome, America, and good evening to our friends listening from around the world tonight. To shalom to our listeners in Israel, and thank you, Israel, for staying up with us. This is your host, Lisa Benson, and I welcome you to the fastest one-hour radio talk show in America. And it is unlikely you will fall asleep while tuned in. No one ever does. We have 4 breaking stories for you today, so please stay with us. Happy New Year. This is a new year, 2016. I can hardly believe it. Wow, a new beginning. And there is no question that the safety and security of our nation are hanging off a cliff. And it is up to us to be informed, be engaged in the process to correct the wrongs of bad policies and to let your lawmakers know that you know what is going on and demand them to listen and take action to protect the American homeland and our ally Israel. Please go to my website at www.lisabensonradioshow.com to learn more about this broadcast and the work of the National Security Task Force of America. This broadcast is brought to you by the patronage of generous benefactors and donors and by the Queen Esther Project. With us today at the top of the show is Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, president and founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Shoshana Bryan, senior director, Washington, D.C. based Jewish Policy Center, will be with us later on to talk about the NSA spying on Prime Minister Netanyahu. You don't want to miss that back-end story. Ryan Morrow is coming on later in the broadcast, national security analyst for the Clarion Project, who will address jihad training camps in America and a few things you may not know, even though you think you know. And so we always appreciate Ryan's insight into that. Richard Cutting will be here, TV, film, actor, writer, producer, and counterterrorism commentator. His insight is always, always welcomed here on this broadcast. We never let you down. We have the accurate news for you. And let's begin. Let's roll. Bringing on right now my co-producer, senior editor, New English Review, and former U.S. Army intelligence officer, my friend, my colleague. Happy New Year, Jerry Gordon. Okay, he'll be with us in just a moment. Let's bring on Zuhdi Jasser first, president and founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Zuhdi, I believe you're on the line.
Hi, Lisa.
Happy
New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for taking some of your day to be with us. Zuhdi, getting right to it. We have been watching you very, very carefully, very closely now for a few years. On December 4th, you launched at the National Press Club in D.C. what we all are heralding, the Muslim reform movement. Now, let me make a commentary before I post and present the question to you. Those of us who are eager to find solutions to the current crisis in radicalization in our country and abroad herald you and the other reformers for what you have done. And simply put, is because it offers a solution. And those who are maybe not understanding it or ridiculing it have no solution. But I know that there are a lot of questions about it. I have questions myself. So let me start off by asking you right now and thanking you for putting your neck out in such a way. Can you tell us what is the credo of the Muslim reform movement?
Well, thanks for having me, Lisa. And, the bottom line is that we know we have a lot of work to do and the pathway's long, but all we're doing is saying this is where we're headed. These are the goalposts. And we have still 99 yards down that field to go. Using a football analogy, but we feel that this declaration, if we get there, is what victory would look like. And ultimately, yes, our enemies are huge. They run governments from Saudi Arabia to Iran to the Muslim Brotherhood. And the credo, as we see it, includes clear stances for secular governance, for the equality of men and women. To say clearly, we reject the caliphate in any form. We reject the Islamic State in any form. We reject blasphemy laws. We reject apostasy laws. We believe that Muslims do not have monopoly on heaven. Ultimately, these are all principles that, yes, will need reform in order to, for example, we say we're against institutionalized Sharia, so we reject any institution that uses Sharia to guide it. Now, we have our personal Sharia, but ultimately, I think that this is the way. The separation of mosque and state is the key. And we think that our declaration will be a firewall to be used by Homeland Security, to be used by those trying to vet refugees, to figure out which movements in Syria, Iran, or elsewhere on our side versus those who are against us. If they sign this declaration, we're beginning to mobilize it now to mosques in America, to Muslim organizations, and to ask them if they sign it, they're with us. If they don't, then they're part of the problem.
Zuhdi, you said on Fox that you will name and shame. Are you talking about naming and shaming the mosques in America that might have extremist imams and ties to it?
Well, our theory that we believe, and I've seen this on the ground as a Muslim my whole life, active in building 4 mosques across the country and being very active, I think we have 2 problems. One is the Muslim leadership in America is very Islamist in majority, and then the silent majority. So we want to do 2 things. One is to confront the leadership and say, where do you stand? If they reject this declaration, actually, some Muslims, there's a mosque already in Phoenix that signed it, and we framed it and put it in their mosque, small mosque.
Which one?
It's one of the mosques. Actually, I don't remember the name. Courtney Lonergan, one of our community outreach people, went to it. It's a small one. I believe it's 32nd Street or downtown in Phoenix. I can get you the name so we can post it.
Yes.
The bottom line is that that's the beginning. We're going to take it to the other mosques in the valley. We've also done it to the Saudi mosque in Washington. They obviously rejected it and pulled it down. But, I think that these are and it doesn't just have to be Muslims taking it. If, all change, all reform is local. So all of your listeners and Americans can take it. We've had Americans in Denver and in various cities say, we're going to take it to our communities in our localities and ask them where they stand on it and see if they'll sign your petition at change.org and join the movement.
Well, I have so many questions for you, as I always do, and I don't get to see you enough, and I don't get to talk to you enough, even though we see you all the time on Fox and CNN and on everything else. But these conversations, when I speak to you on behalf of the questions that I have for you, I know the questions that the listeners have for you. You came here once and you said to me, Sharia is not compliant with the U.S. Constitution, and obviously it is not. As a Jew, I live by kashrut. I live by Talmudic law. I understand certain things about it. I accept some of it. I reject some of it, and that is the cafeteria style Jew that I am. When you talk about, and I'm trying to make the analogy, when you talk about a personal Sharia, can you explain that, please?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt. I mean, Muslims are in denial if they don't admit the fact that current Sharia today, doctrinal Sharia, is in the 13th century. And there may be some reforms out there, et cetera, but the bottom line is the text, the legal text of Sharia as a doctrine are still in the 13th century. There's been very little reform since then. Having said that, the term itself implies God's law, just like if you said Talmudic law. So my dietary rules that I choose to follow, rejecting pork and other things that I feel are not halal, as I would say, my last will and testament is based on laws as I perceive them to be the Sharia that I was taught from my family, the way I pray, the way I fast in Ramadan. So you can't reject, for Muslims to have any credibility in our reform movement, if we rejected all of Sharia, it'd be like saying we reject all of Islam. I mean, Sharia is like Islam. It's God's law. So ultimately, if you separate mosque and state and you remove the imams from positions in leadership of institutions, as we reject in our declaration, institutionalize Sharia, then you give Muslims the time and the place over the next generations to begin to build a new school of thought. I admit, doesn't exist yet today, but we have that time to do it once you separate mosque and state and you see that victory against the Islamic State, that and its jihad and its Sharia can happen if we separate that mosque and state.
I do understand. I don't know why others don't understand. I do understand it. And I think more and more of us are getting to understand it. So having you on this broadcast is real important because it's the political movement that we are fighting. And and the Salafi form of Islam. And I do understand that. Let's hope we can just continue driving this narrative. Now, let me ask you, Zuhdi. Is President Obama endorsing this? Because one would think that he would.
Well, he has not, and the bottom line is not only has he not, There's an article from CNS News that talked about our press conference was at the National Press Club. We put a lot of investment into letting all the media in Washington know about it. We posted it. The press conference itself has had over 17,000 hits already to see it. And the media was there somewhat, but we've had actually a lot more media response to our work in the past few weeks than we've had ever before. So from a cup half full, it's vastly improved. But the White House's summit 2 weeks ago, in which it brought Muslims in on figuring out a strategy to fight radical Islam, as Steve Emerson at the Investigative Project reported, bottom line is they even brought in folks from CARE who are still persona non grata. Hassan Shibli from Florida was in the White House. So the White House is still catering to the Muslim Brotherhood type groups, the Islamists, and they're not using our groups. All we want is a seat at the table, and I think Americans will begin to see the difference between us and the apologetic Islamist groups that are obstructionists to reform.
I'm excited for you. I don't care if it takes 100 years, and it might, but we got to start somewhere. And if this is what it takes, I consider you a very courageous, brave individual, co-founder. We've had Raheel Raza on the program a few weeks ago. We will have her back. We're trying to get a few others on the broadcast, and I will talk to you about that as well. When we come back from the break, so if you could stay with us for another 5 minutes, I want to talk to you about Syria, because you have family near Aleppo, and we want to understand a little bit more, get some insight as to the current situation there. We had you on, I think, right after Russia started bombing, indiscriminately. So I want to get the insight on that. Have you heard from your family recently?
Yeah, we have, but it's worse than it's ever been. So thank you for covering this, and I look forward to talking to you about it.
I just don't know what to say. I mean, again, we talk about refugee resettlement. We all need to be very careful. The President of the United States and the administration would do good by this country to have you, the reformers, the moderate Muslims, come on board and advise him how to vet out a refugee. Zuhdi, Dr. Jasser, stay with us. America, stay with us. Israel, stay with us. We'll be back in 3. This is Lisa Benson, your host on KKNT 960 The Patriot.
The Seth Leibson Show, where it's principles, not politics.
Why is he harder on the U.S. over imprisoning Muslim terrorists than he is on Cuba for arresting political dissidents? It is that question that tells you the psyche of a president who does not have our national security or moral interests at heart or at the top of his mind, but rather a transnational progressivism that takes it easier on enemies of the United States than on the United States.
Weekdays from 10 to midnight on 960 The Patriot.
This is Lisa Benson, and week after week, I bring you the best and compelling, accurate, measured information to protect Americans and the American homeland. We are a vibrant, growing nationwide audience that reaches listeners not only in Arizona, but throughout the country. If you would like to partner with me and expose your business or organization to this highly qualified audience, please call me at 602-790-6418. My audience is exceptionally loyal, well-educated, affluent consumers. I have various affordable advertising packages available, including simple 30 and 60-second endorsement commercials, as well as inclusion on the Lisa Benson Radio Show website or on my social media platforms. Together, we can grow your business or organization. Give me a call, 602-790-6418.
2 little tablets is all it takes to get thicker, fuller hair, guaranteed. Viviscal is the #1 drug-free hair growth supplement in the U.S., with 1 box being sold every minute globally. It's clinically proven, loved by celebrities, and recommended by doctors. And right now, a 90-day supply of Viviscal is being offered in your area risk-free plus free shipping. Call 800-513-5619. Viviscal nourishes thinning hair from within. It makes thin hair full hair beautiful, and promotes the growth of thicker, fuller hair hair guaranteed. Viviscal is so effective, 96% of women would recommend it to a friend. Listen to this.
It's vibrant, shiny, bouncy, everything you want your hair to be. I love Viviscal because it works. It completely works.
Want to try Viviscal? Every listener that calls can try it risk-free for 90 days, plus free shipping. Get thicker, fuller hair guaranteed. Call now, 800-513-5619. 800-513-5619. That's 800-513-5619.
Hello, this is Lisa Benson. Everyone jokes about disliking attorneys until they need competent legal representation. That's why I rely on the law office of John J. Jakobczyk for many of my legal needs. John has been in practice for more than 35 years, with a practice encompassing a number of areas of law, including representing individuals and companies in civil and criminal litigation, advising, drafting, and consulting as to contract, corporate, and business matters, and addressing family issues as they relate to adoption, guardianship, conservatorship, and probate. His practice also includes representing those accused of criminal traffic and DUI offenses, as well as personal injury. To schedule a consultation with John J. Jakobczyk, please call him at 602-468-0030. Again, John J. Jakobczyk, 602-468-0030.
Check out the Seth Leibson Show podcast page at 960thepatriot.com, where you can replay every minute of every show. The Seth Leibson Show, where it's principles, not politics. Weekdays from 10 p.m. to midnight on Intelligent Talk 960 The Patriot. The Seth Leibson Show, where it's principles, not politics. Listen every weekday from 10 p.m. to midnight on Intelligent Talk 960 The Patriot.
960 The Patriot, where truth matters.
You're listening to The Lisa Benson Show for National Security Matters. To join in the conversation, call anytime at 602-508-0960. That's 602-508-0960. Outside of the Valley, call toll-free 888-960-9696. Questions are also welcome by leaving a comment on www.lisabensonradio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Lisa Benson, and I have with me right now Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. I'd like to remind my listeners to visit my website, lisabensonradioshow.com. I'm quite honored to have the endorsement of Major General U.S. Army retired Jack Singlab. And the video of his endorsement is on there. If you don't know General Singlab, he is one of the co-founders of the CIA. He lives in Tennessee. He listens to our broadcast. It's quite an honor to have that endorsement and his testimony of our work. And my reporting is right there on my website. Dr. Jasser, I believe we have Jerry Gordon. Are you on, Jerry? Okay, I'd like you to present, Zuhdi, can you hear Jerry?
Yes, I can.
I want to continue the discussion before we let Dr. Jasser go on Syria. Next question for you comes from you, Jerry Gordon.
Zuhdi, recently a group of opponents to the Assad regime, the Syrian Democratic Forces, composed of Kurdish, Arab, and Syrian Christian units, seized a strategic dam from ISIS and crossed the Euphrates River. But on the other hand, why does Turkish President Erdogan oppose this group that is supported by the U.S. in its advance towards Aleppo?
That's a great question. And you know, this issue of Turkey's position is so should be really looked at by everyone to understand why the ISIS group has grown so much, because Turkey, as much as it claims to be against ISIS and is with us, has really done everything short of directly saying that they're helping them to help them. Why? Because the true Syrian Democratic Forces are with the Kurds. And the Kurds have been really the best ally we have, not only in Syria, but obviously in Iraq. So ultimately, that's why Erdogan has been against the secular Syrian Democratic Forces, if they exist, which they do. Some of them still do exist. And as you can see in Ramadi, we finally took back, and I say we, it was the Iraqi forces that did that, now unfortunately are very heavily influenced by Iran. But the bottom line is the only reason we've been able to take back Ramadi from ISIS is because of the ground movements that have occurred. So these bombing operations, as much as they've weakened the money flow into ISIS, have not done anything to destabilize ISIS out of Raqqa and other areas in Syria where they still have human assets to control the region. So ultimately, I think that until we're able, and in Syria, we have no faith, not only in the Syrian regime, which is as evil as ISIS, but the Russians are certainly not doing things that would help destroy ISIS. They're actually targeting American supporting groups, as we have, that we've tried to support. So it's just a complete mess, and it's becoming more and more radicalized as time goes.
Dr. Jasser, before I let you go and we continue on with this vibrant broadcast, I don't know if you saw on my Facebook page, I broke a story yesterday. Disney Orlando perhaps breached security. I got to get your comment on this. Did you see the post that I put? The burqa women were not, we had informants watching this on the ground in Disney, were not put through the regular rigors of screening at Orlando this weekend?
Yes.
Do you have a comment?
Well, I think, our entire process, as much as I have family trying to, get out, we're realizing that the refugees to say that our entire process previously of how we used to vet refugees and immigrants, yes, it was rigorous, but it didn't vet for jihadism. It didn't vet for ideology. And until we do so, our country is at significant risk. And to say that the old processes that include background checks, et cetera, that rely on fascist regimes like Assad to give us their background is absurd. And I think the Disney situation is another one where we see people coming in that are not vetted, that basically could manifest significant risk. But I'd remind you also that the attacks, these individuals that may come in may pose a risk initially, but it's more of a long-term risk because it's the homegrown terrorists. Once they get here and they're segregated and the care groups and others get a hold of them as victims, that radicalizes them more so than they were even before they got here.
Dr. Jasser, let's break bread together real soon, okay? I've got so much to talk to you about, and I can bring it back to our listeners. Let's have you again. I'm going to let you go on with your day, and I thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Lisa. Thanks for all you do.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Dr. Jasser, thank you.